My cruel wife. My name is Daniel, and I am 35 years old. I never imagined that my marriage would end so quickly, nor that I would discover such a painful truth about the woman I once loved. It all started a year ago when I married Laura, a woman I thought was kind and caring. At first, everything seemed perfect. We had a beautiful wedding, full of love and happiness. I was excited to start this new chapter of my life with her. Before getting married, I told Laura that my mother, Elena, lived with me. She was 72 years old, and I had taken care of her since my father passed away. Laura smiled and said she understood. She even told me she admired me for looking after my mother. That made me feel happy and reassured. After the wedding, Laura moved into my house, and for a while, everything was fine. She was polite to my mother, and my mother tried her best to welcome her. They shared meals, talked about daily life, and even laughed together sometimes. I felt lucky. I believed I had a wonderful wife who respected my mother. However, as time passed, I started to notice small things that made me uncomfortable. My mother, who had always been cheerful and talkative, began to look sad and tired. She spent more time alone in her room and spoke less during meals. When I asked her if something was wrong, she just smiled weakly and said, "Nothing, son. I am just getting old." I wanted to believe her, but something felt strange. Laura also began to change. She started complaining about my mother, saying that she was too slow, too forgetful, and too dependent on us. She told me that we needed privacy and that having my mother in the house was a burden. I tried to defend my mother, reminding Laura that she was old and needed care. But Laura only sighed and said, "I didn't marry you to take care of your mother." One evening, I came home earlier than usual. As I entered the house, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. I quietly walked in and saw Laura speaking harshly to my mother. "You are useless. You make everything dirty, and you take up too much space. Why don't you go live in a nursing home?" Laura's voice was cold and cruel. I felt my heart break. My mother stood there, silent, her hands trembling. I had never seen her so small and fragile. She didn't even defend herself. She just nodded and walked away slowly. I was frozen for a moment, unable to believe what I had just witnessed. How long had this been going on? How many times had Laura spoken to my mother like that when I wasn't around? I felt anger rising inside me. "Laura," I finally said, my voice shaking. She turned around surprised. "Daniel, I didn't hear you come in." "What are you doing? Why are you talking to my mother like that?" I demanded. Laura rolled her eyes. "Oh, Daniel, don't be so dramatic. Your mother needs to understand that this is our house now. She is too old to live with us. We deserve our own life." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "She is my mother. She took care of me all my life. I won't abandon her." Laura crossed her arms. "Then maybe you should choose, Daniel. Your mother or me?" At that moment, my decision became clear. I had made a mistake. I had married a woman who had no kindness, no respect, and no love for the most important person in my life, my mother. I could not stay with someone so cruel. I choose my mother, I said firmly. I want a divorce. Laura's face turned red with anger. You're going to leave me for an old woman? She shouted. Yes, I said without hesitation. If you can treat my mother like this, I don't want to imagine how you will treat me in the future. The days that followed were painful, but necessary. Laura moved out, and I filed for divorce. My mother, though sad about everything, was relieved. I apologized to her for not noticing the abuse earlier, but she just smiled and said, "What matters is that you know now." Now, my mother and I live peacefully together. I take care of her as she once took care of me. I have learned that true love is not just about romance, but also about respect and kindness. I lost my wife, but I saved my mother, and in the end, that was the best decision of my life.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. See you soon.